Good afternoon. Today, I'm proud to share my lower cost plan, which focuses on fighting inflation, creating good paying jobs, and supporting working families. The plan is comprised of multiple bills that I've introduced that I will continue to push to ensure that I am addressing the economic concerns of my constituents and working families all across America. I just introduced the Inflation Relief Act to lower taxes for middle-class families and ease the burden of inflation by providing New Mexicans with an extra $900 every year. And the fact is that in today's economy, $900 can make a real impact and a real difference for most households. And Congress should support this bill to deliver a tangible relief to hardworking Americans. To combat inflation, the Bipartisan Combating Rural Inflation Act, which I've also led and co-sponsored, would support rural communities just like those right here in the 2nd District of New Mexico that are disproportionately impacted by the impacts of inflation in rural communities. To bring good paying jobs to New Mexico, my lower cost plan includes the Economic Opportunity for Border Communities Act. In fact, we are here today at a manufacturing facility in Santa Teresa called CNY that provides 150 jobs in one of the fastest growing sectors of New Mexico's economy. Now, together with federal investments, state investments in infrastructure, we can grow places like Santa Teresa and Sullen Park to be binational economic hubs that will provide for working families good paying jobs for several generations. I've also sponsored the Doctors of Community Act, and this is a bipartisan bill that aims to create more healthcare jobs and ensure that every family can get the healthcare that they need. That's also along with the Nurse Corps Parity Act. This is especially critical for our rural healthcare and the shortage of nurses that we have. This is critically important, one, because it adds healthcare jobs, and two, because it also helps bring the healthcare that folks need in rural communities to be able to go to work in the first place. The Bipartisan Ranching Without Red Tape Act reduces burdens on ranchers. The Farm Workforce Support Act lets farmers do what they do best, put food on our tables. The Rural Jobs Act increases investments in rural small businesses, and the Bipartisan One-Stop Shop for Small Businesses Act would make licensing and business permitting more accessible for small businesses. Now, to support working families, my lower cost plan also includes the Bipartisan Affordable Connectivity Program Extension Act. This is a program that is crucial and incredibly important for rural broadband and domestic broadband all across New Mexico. This would make sure that families that are working and that whose kids depend on accessible, affordable internet access continue to have access to this very important program. Now, the child tax credit was part of bipartisan legislation that benefits 59,000 children in my district. In fact, I just visited an elementary school where we talked with some of these children that have grown up in healthy families, even in tough conditions, even some while living below the poverty line, because their families have the ability and the impact of the child tax credit, which has lifted more than 50% of children out of poverty in this nation. The American Family Act would modify the child tax credit to make the credit fully refundable. I also voted recently to pass the bipartisan Lower Cost, More Transparency Act to prioritize patients over big hospital. Now, we're seeing that the benefits from Democratic policies are taking root in our communities. Ever since we capped insulin to $35 a month for Medicare patients, we have seen those tremendous gains. In fact, we are seeing now that those folks that were selling insulin on the black market in places like Silver City or Truth or Consequences have taken their signs down because this was a real problem for New Mexicans. We also have to make sure that we can expand dental and vision coverage for seniors and end surprise billing, which this bill would do. And so the reality is that this is one of the most dysfunctional Congresses under MAGA leadership. And that's why we need to show them that New Mexicans support plans like mine. We're tired of the partisan politics and are ready for real, tangible benefits. I urge my colleagues to bring these bills to the floor, and I urge all of my colleagues to get back to work, to do the work of the American people, to make sure that we can lower the cost for working families and do it in a meaningful way. People are tired of the politics, and the bills that I have introduced will help support a working economy that's going to help working class people all across New Mexico and all across this country. So let's get to work. Let's get back to the business of governing, and let's help the people who elect us to these seats in the first place.